Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make some wax tarts. We're going to be making them to look like edible macarons, and so I'm so excited to be sharing this with you today. I'm also going to be showing you how to whip your wax like I did in my candle video a couple weeks back where I showed you how to make a dessert looking candle. So this one is going to be a dessert wax melt video. In this video today, I'm going to be going over my full step-by-step visual process and tutorial, along with sharing with you the ratios and the recipe, and I'll put it in the description box below for you as well. If you would like the recipe written with a full step-by-step detailed tutorial with percentages, amounts, and where to get all the supplies for this project, you can head on over to my Patreon campaign where I'll be posting this at the $5 level. There's so much to take advantage of over there. I really hope you'll make 2024 your year and join the campaign. It's a great way to connect with me, a great way to connect with other makers. We offer so much. There's literally hundreds of recipes and tutorials to take advantage of just at the $5 level. At just $5 a month, I really feel this is the best deal on the internet because you gain access to hundreds of recipes and tutorials, but we also have other tiers, each with their own unique benefits. We offer things like quarterly classes, live monthly hangouts, gift packages, and to everyone that signs up, you get a coupon code, 2 coupon codes actually, to my favorite suppliers, which are makesy.com and onlinelabels.com. So I really hope you'll check it out. I'll place the link in the description box below for you. All right, let's make some dessert wax melts. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and create the top and bottom pieces to our macaron cookies. And so I got these molds on Amazon. I'll go ahead and put the link to my affiliate where you can find these. I don't fill them all the way up. You'll see as we go along, but I like to put more piping or whipped candle wax in the middle of the two pieces. And I find if you fill these up all the way, it doesn't leave a lot of room for piping, just a little thin layer. So I like to just make my cookie pieces very thin, and I'll show you how I do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and weigh off the wax that I'm using for the cookie top and bottom, which is Pillar of Bliss wax. This wax is made specifically for popping out of molds or pillar type candles, so they're great for wax melts. I got this wax, as you probably all know, from Nature's Garden, and I love the way this wax works in wax melts. It has a really good hot throw. So we're going to go ahead and weigh off, we're only going to be weighing off 3.6 ounces of wax because we're only just going to be making 12 little top and bottoms. So 3.6 ounces of wax. This wax is super easy to weigh off because it comes in pastilles, these little tiny pastilles, so it's so easy to just pour and weigh. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and warm this up over my stove to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, so right now we're sitting a little bit above 200 degrees, which is perfect because we're going to need time to add a little bit of color. And I'm using a little bit of this red candle dye. This comes from Sierra Candles, and it's super concentrated. I'm just wanting to make a very light pink color because we're going to be using the fragrance oil Cherry Almond by Brambleberry. It's such a good fragrance, but I'm just going to grab up a tiny bit of red on my little stir stick here. In fact, I may wipe some of that off because you can't take it away once you've added it in, and I just want a very slight pink color. So these would make really cute little Valentine's Day gifts, or even something that you could sell if you wanted to. So I'm going to go for just a little bit more there, and I think that's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this up. Yeah, so those are going to turn out a really beautiful light pink. I might just add a tiny bit more. There we go. You don't even want to use a full drop with this amount of wax because a full drop will make this a way more concentrated color. So just dab it onto a toothpick or a stirring stick like I have. Okay, so that's the color we're working with, just a very light pink. Now I'm going to take the temperature And we are ready to go ahead and add the wax. We're sitting at around 185 degrees. I like to add it somewhere between 180 to 200, depending on the type of fragrance that you're working with. And again, we're going to be using the Cherry Almond Fragrance by Brambleberry, which smells really good. And we're going to be adding in 10% fragrance. So we're making 4 ounces total, 3.6 ounces is wax, which means 0.4 ounces is fragrance, making it 10% of our recipe. This is a very, very strong fragrance. You really don't need to add more than a 10% fragrance load here. We're going to give that a good stir. And then we're going to pour it into our little cookie shells here, but we're only going to pour up to the first little lip because I only want a thin shell so I can put a little bit more piping in the middle. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pour. I did a lot of looking around to see if I could find thinner ones. And they do make those mats that you can pour into, but I figured they would be a little bit too flat, you know. Those are like for real macaron type cookies, and I figured they would be a little bit too thin. So I ended up just going with this mold, but only filling up to that first lip. Okay, so what we're going to do is allow those to set up completely before we pull them out, and then I'll show you what the next step is. So while my little cookie shells are setting up, I'm going to go ahead and cut the wax for the frosting or the piping part of this project, and I'm going to be using a different wax than the wax I used for the crust pieces. So for the little cookie crust, we're using the Pillar of Bliss wax because it's hard and you can pop it right out of the mold very easily, and they're made for wax tarts. For this middle section, I'm going to be using number 7 wax. This is a para soy blended wax, and the reason I'm using this one is because it doesn't set up as quickly as the Pillar of Bliss. You can pipe Pillar of Bliss wax. I have done it. It's just a little bit more challenging and can look a little bit more chunky in texture. So a little bit of a softer wax in between your 2 cookie crusts, I think works a little bit better. So I'm going to be using this para soy blend. This is number 7 wax. It came from 1617, and as you're watching this video, by now you'll probably realize that 1617 has closed shop and they're no longer in business. So I know that was sad to hear, definitely sad to hear for me because this is my favorite wax, and I became friends with the owner over there, so I really do hope that future endeavors for all the employees at 1617 and also the owner, Vanessa, I wish them good luck on their future endeavors and hope everything is okay with them. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is cut this up. Now, that being said about this wax that you can't buy it from 1617 anymore, there are lots of other para soy blended waxes on the market. So as long as you're using a wax that's like this, or even 100% soy wax that you like for wax melt making, as long as it has a good hot throw, you really can't go wrong. You just don't want your wax to be super hard on the inside of the cookie pieces. So any para soy blend would probably work fine as long as you like the hot throw of that particular wax. So I'm going to be cutting up. I do have a little bit left of this number 7 wax, and I'm really hoping some other suppliers will jump in and start carrying this exact formula because I really do like it a lot. And so we're going to go ahead and cut up. Again, we're going to be doing a 10% fragrance load, or a 10% of the recipe for the piping is also going to be fragrance, leaving 90% wax. So we're going to be cutting up 6 ounces for the piping, and so we're going to be chopping up 5.4 ounces of wax. I probably won't need a full 6 ounces. I always overdo it. I've scaled this recipe down a few times now, but I always feel when you're piping, you do lose a little bit. So I like to just estimate a little bit more than I need. So I'm going to be weighing off 5.4 ounces. I'll probably only need, realistically, about half of that. But we're going to see how that works, because you can always save the piping. You can always save it and melt it back down and re-whip it for another project. So I'm going to go ahead and just weigh off my 5.4. If you try this tutorial and you find this to be way too much piping, of course you can scale it down if you didn't want any left over. Okay, so 5.4. But you do get a little bit of wastage in the piping bag and in the piping tip, so sometimes it makes it a little bit hard to judge how much you'll need for actual piping. This is a very strong smelling fragrance. All right, so there's our 5.4. And then we're gonna go ahead and pop this on the stove again onto low heat, and I'm gonna melt this down to 200 degrees. It's the same melting temperature as the Pillar of Bliss. All right, so we've melted down the container wax, and again with the wax choice for the middle of the macaron, you just wanna make sure for the whipping part, the best type of wax to use is a wax that's not too hard and not too soft. So this is why the Paris Soy Blend is a good wax to use for whipping, in my opinion. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and add in our Cherry Almond Fragrance. It's sitting right at 200 degrees, and with this wax, you can add it right in at 200 degrees. We're gonna be adding in 0.6 ounces of fragrance oil, and that's 10% of the recipe for the actual whipping part. There we go. We're going to give this a stir. This type of wax also doesn't require a long stirring like some soy waxes do. You just need to stir it in just a little bit, and that's all you need to do. Not even 1 minute. You just stir it in, it binds, and then you go ahead. And what I'm going to do with this wax, I'm not adding any color to this because I want the frosting on the inside to be white. And this sets up to a beautiful creamy white color. I'm just going to go ahead and pour it into this mixing bowl. And we're going to allow it to start to set up a little bit. And then we'll begin piping the wax into like a buttercream type consistency. So I'm going to go ahead and set that off to the side and just allow that to start setting up. While that's setting up, we're just going to go ahead and pop our little cookie crusts out of the mold. They're sufficiently set up. Now they don't take long at all, and they look almost the same color as the actual mold itself. They're a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these out. They're still a tiny bit warm, so they're not fully set up, but this is how thin I like my pieces. And then that way they just take the piping, you can take a little bit more piping inside. But they do look really perfect. I do really like how these are. And you can experiment with the width of these, but I like them pretty thin. All right, we're just going to go ahead and set these aside, and then we are going to prepare our piping bag, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to start whipping the wax. All right, with this particular wax, at around 110 degrees, it's going to start to take on kind of a slushy looking appearance where you might get some chunks in there. So at this point, I like to take my mixer, my electric mixer, and just go on low and break up those little chunks. And that's about all I'm going to do. I'm just breaking up the chunks and waiting for this wax to solidify a little bit more. Now in my dessert candle video, I shared with you that you can start whipping earlier. You totally can. Like at this stage, you can start whipping it until it gets into that consistency that you like. The only downfall with that is that you will be whipping for quite some time to get it set up enough to pipe, and you incorporate a lot more air, which is okay. It does give a light and fluffy appearance, but just to avoid all of that excess whipping time, you can just wait until this sets up a little bit more if you like, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you today. So I just whipped up the wax and broke up the little chunks that were starting to form, and I'm just allowing it to set up a little bit more before we start whipping air into it. Okay, once it looks like this and it looks set up enough where it's not moving all around, I mean it is moving a little bit, it's time to go ahead and start whipping it. So we're sitting right around 100 degrees, 101 degrees. That may be different depending on what type of wax you are using for your whipping, but you just want to make sure it's set up enough that it's not totally fluid, but also has an opaque appearance to it. Start out on low, and it's starting to hold peaks, which is good. That's what we want. We want it to hold peaks. And the more we whip, the cooler this will get. Now this is a process. You don't want to over whip it. This will cool down as we stir and whip air into it, but if you over whip it and you whip too much, you're going to warm up your wax, and that's going to cause your wax to stay kind of in a melted state. So we're just going to go like this, and then we're going to turn up the speed and just whip this until we get a nice kind of buttercream consistency to our wax. I'll bring you back when we've brought it to that consistency. All right, we're ready to go ahead and transfer this into the piping bag. Now you know when it's ready, when you can pick up the wax and it doesn't just fall immediately off your spatula. See that? So we're ready to go ahead and pipe, and we're sitting at 90 degrees on the wax. Just for reference, if you have a wax, if you have this wax or a wax that's similar, it's a good reference point to know when to stop. So we're just going to go ahead and fill this piping bag with all the wax that's in here. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and just move the wax to the bottom. These are not my favorite bags to pipe with. They have a texture on them, so they make it kind of hard to push the product all the way down. Okay, I'm going to give this a little bit of a test pipe on my paper over here and just make sure we're good to go. Yep, looking perfect. So I'm just going to take 6 of these. We're going to go ahead and just pipe up. Now I don't know what type of container or what type of tip this is. It's just like a closed kind of star, I guess. It's easier to pick them up and just kind of go an inch above and pipe. And just like I thought, I've way overestimated on the amount of piping needed for this, but that's okay. You can let this harden. I would definitely, I'll go ahead and put in amounts that I used, but I'll go ahead and also put in amounts that I think are more appropriate for this small of a recipe. So then we're just going to take our tops and just place them right on top. This wax, if you're not using the Pillar of Bliss wax for your tops, this wax also, because it stays a little bit softer, it's easier to adhere the tops. They stay on a little bit better. They're so little. Now, because I have some left over, I think I want to redo that one. Easy enough. You just pull off the top, scrape the piping down with your spatula, and then start over. There you go. There, perfect. And there you go. Isn't that the cutest little wax macaron you've ever seen? All right, we're gonna do one other little thing here to finish these up. Oh, I have one more here to pipe. I'm gonna do one more. Okay, and I'll bring you back when we're ready just to decorate the tops just a little bit. All right, so all I'm gonna do is decorate the tops just a little bit with some gold holographic glitter. And I'm gonna start off by just spritzing the top with rubbing alcohol. Just a little bit of rubbing alcohol to get that glitter to stick down. So let me line these up. So all I'm going to do is just take my 99% rubbing alcohol. I'm just going to spritz the top like that with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. I'm using this gold holographic glitter from Fizz Fairy. It's a very, very fine glitter. So I'm just dusting the top. And they smell so good, you guys. And the hot throw with this fragrance is off the chain. It's so good. So you could package these up into 12 or 6 packs into little bakery boxes. I think that would be a cute way to decorate these. But then you're going to want to go ahead and allow these to set up so that the little tops don't come apart. So go ahead and allow these to set up for a day or so before moving them around. And then with the wax in the middle, that takes a 2-week cure time, so I would wait 2 weeks before you judge the scent throw on these little guys. And there you go, everybody. That's how you make a dessert looking wax melt. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Please remember to leave me comments and questions below. That really means a lot to me. Share this video with a friend, and why not subscribe to my channel. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Keep shining. Bye.